Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Wednesday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen, hard at work on the tropical island of St. Barts, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is David, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. If you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers
and Sister.
That's right, Ellen. Welcome, everyone, to episode 475. And first I want to say is that we really missed Ellen last week. There was too much testosterone on this show. That's all it was. It was out of control. Lori was rolling her eyes the whole time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she was listening to me. She was in the recliner just listening to my end of it. And she was like, oh, God, what the hell are the other guys saying? It was a mess. So we really
you guys
need you,
are
Ellen.
hilarious.
We missed you very much.
Well, I'm back.
I want to know how the film festival and the grilled octopus went.
Well, the film festival was wonderful. We actually didn't have any grilled octopus this year, but we did have a lot of other very interesting things, including Ital vegetarian stew. And for anyone who doesn't know what Ital is, it's sort of, Caribbean Rastafarian cooking. It was quite wonderful. And there's a composer. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. His name is Chevalier de Saint-Georges. And he was sort of considered the Black Mozart of his time. They were contemporaries, and his music is wonderful. And we had a film about him starring a Swedish soprano who has taken some of his music and on her own recreated an opera because of all of his operas are lost in time. So she's created an opera based on some of his music. And then she wanted to give a little concert. So on Sunday night, when we're usually recovering, we organized a little opera recital in the Anglican church here. And it was quite wonderful.
Oh, it sounds great.
Everybody loved that. And people who never darken our doorstep at the films came to the music because they're opera buffs. So that was very nice.
Yeah. I would have gone to
great.
that in a second. That sounds
wonderful.
It
was great.
How many films?
17. And one of the things that was really nice was opening night this year was in collaboration with the island government, who had sent out a call for films, as it were, and 4, one duo and 2 single young filmmakers made a series of 8 short films ranging in like 6 to 22 minutes about various traditions on the island. A lot of people are trying really hard to keep old school St. Barts alive and not just be totally eaten by the wave of new restaurants and hotels from Saint-Tropez. And, so that was about like traditional food and traditional clothing. And the women on this island, believe it or not, until the, I don't know, the late 1960s, 70s, 80s in there. Some of them still dress the way their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmothers dressed when they got here in the 17th century. And that included these big white bonnets that are like from Brittany, and they're either made with wooden slats to keep them in place or big sort of, bows and tucks. And I happen to own one. They call them a calèche, or they also call them a quiche nut, which apparently came from kiss me not. And it was a way because they come out really far. And I wore it to the opening night, and the people thought that an American wearing her calèche was quite hilarious. It's a little dangerous, though, because you have absolutely no side peripheral vision. So it's really weird. You can't tell who's coming up in either direction. It's very funny. I know.
That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Okay, so I got to tell you, Ellen, earlier I said we really missed you because, we had we needed your presence
Oh.
And one of the reasons why we started out with a 55-minute show I had to cut like 18 minutes out of that show because of all that crazy talk. And a big part of contention was whether or not this festival you were doing was a porn film festival.
Oh, absolutely not.
I said, no, absolutely not.
Absolutely
Steve,
not.
But, I'm telling you, that Dennis, his mind is in the gutter. He is absolutely in the gutter. I don't know what to do about him. He's not here today to defend himself. I'll tell you that right now. So he's out doing
no
tech
porn.
rehearsals.
This is a very Catholic island, and we would never, ever
Of
do
course
that.
not.
How long have you made St. Barts your home?
Well, it's a long story. I came here on vacation for 3 years, 89, 90, and 91. Met my now husband in 91. We got married in 92. So I've been living here on and off since 92. But until 2019, I was sort of here half time and in New York or traveling for LDI and live design business the rest of the time. And then, as you know, my husband had a huge life-threatening stroke in May of 2019, 2 days after the end of that film festival. And then COVID happened. So from May of 2019 until March of 2019, he was basically hospitalized in Guadeloupe. And then we were sent to Paris for some testing. And then the island shut down completely in March of 2020, 2 days after we got back from the tests in Paris. So those 3 years, I was sort of here nonstop, and I don't really like to leave him alone because he's handicapped at this point because of the stroke. So I really, the past couple years, have only left once to go to LDI. So it's it's different because one of the things that's wonderful for me about producing the film festival here is that I get a whole week of like-minded people who want to talk about art and music and film
And wear hats.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's cool.
So listen, let's get started the show. But we should start off the show by announcing that yesterday Tony nominations came out.
Right.
And I think we should just announce who the nominees are, because to me, all the nominees are winners. And I think choosing a winner in an artistic category is ridiculous to begin with. This is my personal choice. But I think people who are nominated, that is important because that is a recognition from the industry. So, Ellen, would you like to tell our listeners who was nominated?
Best Scenic Design of a Play: Hildegard Bechler, Oedipus; Takeshi Kata, Bug; Chloe Lamford, Death of a Salesman; David Corrins, Dog Day Afternoon; and David Rockwell, Fallen Angels. Best Scenic Design of a Musical: Dots for The Rocky Horror Show; Sutra Gilmore for Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York; Rachel Hauk for Cats, The Jellicle Ball; Dane Laffrey, The Lost Boys; and Scott Pask for Schmigadoon. Best Costume Design for a Play: Brenda Abendandolo, Dog Day Afternoon; Queen Jean, Liberation; Jeff Mashi, Fallen Angels; Emilio Sosa, The Ballisters; Paul Taswell, Joe Turner's Come and Gone. Best Costume Design of a Musical: Linda Cho, Ragtime; Linda Cho, Schmigadoon; Queen Jean, Cats, The Jellicle Ball; Ryan Park, The Lost Boys; and David I. Reynoso, Rocky Horror Show. Best Lighting of a Play: Isabella Bird, Dog Day Afternoon; Natasha Chivers, Oedipus; Stacey DeRosier, Joe Turner's Come and Gone; Heather Gilbert, Bug; Heather Gilbert, The Fear of 13; Jack Knowles, Death of a Salesman. Best Lighting Design of a Musical: Kevin Adams, Chess; Jane Cox, The Rocky Horror Show; Dawn Holder, Schmigadoon; Adam Honore, Cats, The Jellicle Ball; Adam Honore and Donald Holder, Lighting Design with 59 Studio for Projection Design of Ragtime; and Jen Shriver and Michael Arden, The Lost Boys. Best Sound Design of a Play: Justin Ellington, Joe Turner's Come and Gone; Tom Gibbons, Oedipus; Lee Kinney, The Fear of 13; Josh Schmidt, Bug; and Mikhail Suleiman, Death of a Salesman. Best Sound Design of a Musical: Kai Harada, Cats, The Jellicle Ball; Kai Harada, Ragtime; Adam Fisher, The Lost Boys; Brian Ronan, The Rocky Horror Show; and Walter Trarbach, Schmigadoon.
I'm just so damn grateful I'm not reading that. We're going to send you a Light Talk blue ball right now.
And I do apologize for any names I butchered because I should have practiced this ahead of time. But our dear friend and Lumen brother, Zach Borave, hopped immediately on Facebook and wrote, "I'll skip my yearly rant about all the shows that were nominated for Scenic and Lighting Tony Awards and where they excluded the projection designer's contributions almost entirely, and just congratulate the lone projection design nominee to actually be included, 59 productions. And there's been some commentary about that. But I do hope that maybe by next year, the Tonys will wake up and do a new category for projection.
It's so ridiculous not to have a category for projections. I mean, they are so behind the artistic and technological curve here. I mean, it's just amazing. You would think this would have been like 15, 20 years ago when we first had, the great projection designers come on up, video and projection. So I just don't get it.
Well, Zach
stupid.
quoted his mentor, Wendell Harrington.
Wendell,
and said, I remember once Wendell said if they weren't going to recognize the projections along with the scenery or lighting, that they should turn them off when the Tony voters see the show and see how they like the scenery and lighting without projections. It's sort of like riding Space Mountain with the lights on. No magic.
I'm sure she said a few other things too.
Turn on the work
I'm sure
lights.
she did. But I do not understand it. And, the conversation has been floated around about maybe there should be one overall production award that includes all the categories for the show. I've never understood a few things. Sometimes when scenic design gets a Tony and the lighting doesn't, and if you turn off the lights and you see what the scenery looks like, he just said no magic. Or Hamilton, which is my favorite beef forever, that the scenic design did not win a Tony and every other designer did, when for me, the scenic design is really the shell that makes that whole production possible. So go figure.
Okay, here's the deal. It's a collaborative art, okay? With that, the entire production team, including the director, create the visuals for the show and the sound, for that matter. So instead of having best lighting design, best scene design, best costume design, best sound design, best projection design, how about best production design?
Right.
And you've got 5 or 6 winners. You've got the lighting designer, you got everybody, including the director. Yeah. Because the director is driving a lot of that design. That's the truth.
Yeah, and you're going to have to include the best AI app. We'll go along with it very soon.
Eventually.
There's another mountain there to climb that most people don't think about. Linda Cho there is nominated twice, and our friend Adam Honore is nominated twice.
And Heather Gilbert.
They could split the vote and take themselves out, which is often the case when you're nominated more than once.
I'm with Ellen on this one. I think that this needs to be completely rethought. It is a team effort, and it's a team award. I just don't get it why, like in Hamilton, where you have the best lighting design, but you don't have best set design.
Right. I know that was kind of weird.
That's like, it makes no sense. None of this makes sense.
Well, it was like when they put in the sound design award and then they took away the sound design award and then they put it back. Look, I understand that there's a problem that every creative person on a Broadway team wants to be considered for a Tony, including now I understand the casting directors, and then the hair and wig people have requested. So I guess they have to draw the line someplace, but at least a total production award would include all of those.
That's right. And some shows would have a puppet designer. Some shows wouldn't have a puppet designer. Some shows would have a video designer. Some shows wouldn't have a video designer.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's about the entire show.
Exactly.
It seems to be a lot fairer if that was the case, that we have like an overall award.
Right.
And that way you always have everybody involved in it. Sound, lighting, projections, the whole bit. Director.
And also, there are some of the regional awards where I don't think you can get nominated twice in the same category. It would be more like Steve Woods for Into the Woods and, whatever else it was, Hello, Dolly, in the same season, so that you're nominated for Best Lighting Award for that work that you did, not twice for different shows.
Right. That makes sense for 2 shows.
I remember several years ago, it's been some time, but a designer was nominated 3 times. And he or she lost. And it was, they took themselves out of the voting. And so there was something wrong about that too, I thought.
All right. Well, we'll be talking a lot more about this when Zach comes on the show next week, hopefully. I'm not a believer in awards. I think that artistic awards is kind of stupid and self-congratulatory. But that being said,
they help sell tickets.
it helps sell tickets. That's why they do it. It's really about commercial theater, and it's really sad that's the case, but that's the case. So
Right.
so I just think it would be a lot better if we just just recognize the people and be done
Right.
with it. Okay. All those people you mentioned deserve recognition. They've received the recognition. We don't need the best lighting designer. We don't need the best set designer. Who cares? I don't care. So let's just celebrate everybody. Okay.
I'm for it.
Yeah, there we go. We got some agreement. So let's get started. Ellen, you have the first question of the day.
I do. Sam from Seattle asks, when you are asked to design an opera, play, or musical, is it appropriate to watch videos of previous productions, or could that influence my design too much? One example where the same director directed the same opera for a different company and did not hire the same designers. It was not contractual because it wasn't a revival in theory. It was a different company completely. And obviously, the designers looked at the first video and pretty much recreated the sets and lighting. And the original designers wanted to know if they could sue. So with all that out there, where do you go? What do you do? How is your work protected, and how do you protect yourself from plagiarism?
Usually, if it's a respected company, they would realize what's going on and they don't want to get involved in it. So they would urge the director to either hire the same designers. If that's the show they wanted, they should hire the same designers to remount it.
Right.
Or just do a whole new design. I've been through this. I've had this situation happen to me on a union show, and the director basically screwed me and the other designers, by not hiring us.
Right.
Because it would have been a lot easier, and ended up with a show that, I don't know, I never saw it. I saw photos of it. And it was obviously the same design. Who knows? Maybe it was as good. I have no idea. But it's just bad form. And good directors will not do that. They would not allow that to happen. Like if a director goes to another company and the company says, we want to do this production you did, but we really don't want to hire these designers because they're too expensive. The director, a good director, somebody like Paul or Ken or a lot of directors who I've worked with would say, absolutely not. If you're doing a show, you're going to hire David, you're going to hire Kevin, you're going to hire blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They're going to be the designers because they're the ones, along with the director, who came up with the designs.
Right. But going back to Sam's question a little bit, should he or not look at videos of previous productions? If, like, let's say Sam doesn't know who's designed it before. Someone calls him up. He's a young designer, and he says, "Hey, we're doing La Boheme at the Cincinnati Repertory Opera Company." And does he go online and see who else has done it and where and what it looks like, or does he just not?
He does not.
He does not. Okay.
No, because it's in the question. Could that influence my design?
Right.
I think what happens is when you start doing that, when you Google images of Oklahoma or any of those American mythic musicals and start just looking at it, it is going to influence your design. It's a waste of your time, and it's a waste of your brain energy. I would never do that, because I think what happens is you sell yourself short. You might have a really wonderful idea, but you don't do it because you look at the other production and go, oh, well, in this production, they used massive amounts of white backlight at this moment in the show. Your idea was probably just fine and dandy until you let yourself be talked out of following what your vision was. I think you see this in small theaters, small summer stocky type theaters a lot, where they're different world, not all, but some. And they say things like, I want you to look at the movie of Oklahoma, and I want the costumes to look just like that. Or you see some suspicious Agnes DeMille like dancing on stage. I just think it's a road you don't want to walk down.
Well, how about let's say you're running a summer theater in New Hampshire, which I did for a couple of years, and you rent the costumes from some other production. And then you go, oh, well, I've got all their costumes. How did they light them? And you start looking at their photographs, and then you sort of get into this vortex of, well, do we want it to look like their production or not?
I don't think there's a problem with looking at other productions, and I'll tell you why. If you're not a hack, if you're an actual artist, then you're not going to allow another production to influence your own decisions, your own art. You can look at that production as research, especially in the example you brought up, Ellen, about them using the same costumes. To see what those costumes look like on stage may be priceless to be able to see it now. Whether they lit them in green or blue or whatever, and they destroyed the costumes, that's one thing. I'm talking about the way they look, how good they look, what the lines are. You get to see the composition, and if it's the same director, not always, but chances are that the blocking could be very similar, especially if the director says, I've already solved a lot of these problems in my previous production. And here's this is how we did the transitions. If it's on the video, looking at the transitions of what the director has done, right? How that director has staged transition, maybe the lighting could be totally different. We're still working within that, or maybe it works. I think that you can watch other productions just for research. But, if you're going to be stealing he lit this all in this really deep blue, therefore I'm going to light it in that all deep blue. I mean, that's hackdom. That's the worst of being a hack, right? Why are you even doing this? We don't make enough money to just recreate someone else's design. So, I think it just has to do with the type of integrity that you have as an artist. And don't worry about it. But no, I don't think it's a problem. I understand that's what Steve's saying, that there are some really, amateur companies out there that say, we want this to look like that, and then if if you're looking for a job and you're like, I got to take this job, hopefully you don't do it too often. That's all I have to say.
Opera companies are notorious about this, particularly civic companies and some regional companies, is part of their operating capital is renting scenery and renting costumes.
Right.
That's right.
So to me, that's a completely different thing.
Right.
That's totally different. Because you are licensing that.
Right. And the designer gets paid. If it's a good contract, if that designer's under a normal contract, then every time that show is remounted or sold, then that designer will get what we call right of first refusal. Either they get hired to, supervise the load in and stuff like that, or to redesign it. I mean, they have to get the first offer to do that. In all of my contracts since 1982, I've had right of first refusal.
Even if they're just renting the sets and costumes from another company?
There are instances when if they're just renting the set or even the costumes, that they don't have to hire the original line designer.
Right.
And I have a story. I'm not going to mention names, but one of the names that we were talking about, one of the older designers, had a Broadway musical that was, pretty well known. And I got a call one day from a producer in LA saying, we're bringing this show in to LA and it's going to be the Broadway show, but we want to use a different lighting designer. Now, I knew the lighting designer, right? And this is a big name lighting designer. So I called him up because I know him that well. I called him up. I said, you're not going to believe this call I got from this producer. And he said, David, it's okay. I hated the show. I hate the producer. I don't want to deal with him. Go ahead and do it. Just don't use any of my ideas.
Okay.
And I said, something, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to go there. And I didn't. I turned the show down. Even a Broadway contract. Apparently there are loopholes that producers can get around and general directors to not hire all the design team.
Well, maybe the designer had right of first refusal and refused it.
He would have told me that.
Okay.
He would have said, I turned that show down. But he was more like, I'm not surprised this guy did this. I'm not surprised, sort of thing.
Dennis, who couldn't be with us today, said he liked the question because that's how AI will be designing in the future.
Oh.
So when we have your speak to console and you go, hey, go find me a beautiful rendition of Madame Butterfly and light it just like you see on video, then what?
No. Okay. That's a wonderful segue into my question, which is coming up right now.
Well, then go ahead. Yeah.
That's Tina from Montana asks, I am a 16-year-old high school student and I love lighting design. However, my parents tell me that I should find another profession because they say that AI will be taking all the jobs away from lighting artists. Is this true? Well,
It depends. Are your parents lighting designers?
okay. So for listeners of our show, you all know I have this thing about an AI light board. Okay. That does not mean I believe that AI is going to be taking over the lighting designer's role. I believe that AI is going to be a great tool, a great time-saving tool in the process of stage design, whether it be lighting or video or whatever. That's going to be a wonderful tool because it's going to speed things up. You're going to be able to do research instantly. Once they get it together and the industry becomes large enough that it's commercially viable, we are all going to see AI lighting consoles.
Right.
We're going to see, much more content development happening there. That's happening already. So to Tina, I say, if you love lighting design, then be a lighting designer. I don't think they're going to take your job away if you are prepared. That means study AI, study all the programs that you can use, be one of the people screaming at Verilight and MA and ETC saying, I want to be a great lighting designer programmer. And I need a board that will listen to me and that will do as I say and speed up the process. And when I ask for a fixture to have an R67 in it, then I don't want to look at an R80. I want it to completely come up with R67 accurately to do this. I can't tell you how much time is wasted trying to find color on a color picker. Yeah, you really have to eyeball it, and then you don't know what other colors you're looking at and what happens. Is that really a Lee 200? It's a real mess. Reimagining and redesigning the programmer console interface with clear voice commands and improving the color picker so it actually recreates the color the designer asked for would be a huge, huge time saver. It's going to free the director and the rest of the team to move faster through a show and exploring other options so that, you don't run out of time. So my advice to you, Tina, is to stick to it. And look at the excitement that it's going to create, the opportunities that it's going to create. The artistic opportunities are going to be amazing, absolutely amazing. I am really sorry the center of my career is not happening right now. Or even if I was a student right now, it'd be so exciting to live through this time and to be able to create with the type of tools that you're going to have in the next 5 to 10 years.
I think there's two things in what you said. I agree with you 100%. I don't think it's going to take jobs away. I do wonder how long we will be teaching those AI consoles gel numbers. That may be something that just goes away in the future. And I suggest to Tina that she get voice recognition, fingerprint recognition, and face recognition on her console so that nobody else comes along and uses it after she's set what she wants to set.
Wise advice. Steve?
I have a cautionary tale. Don't listen to David or to Ellen. So years ago, I was working with a major monster ballet company, and they had a piece, full evening, that another ballet company wanted to license. So they flew me in to light the ballet in the manner that it had been done originally. So I'm sitting there working through the show, and the business manager came up to me. He looked at me and he said, I don't know that we need you here. Okay. Why don't you need me here? And he said, it seems to me like you're just in the way. I think the choreographer could tell the board operator what he wants to see, and I don't understand why you're messing with the design. I found that amazing. So I think the same thing could happen here. I think those hack producers with their theaters can go, we don't need a lighting designer. The director can just sit there and talk to the board. I need more light on stage left. I need more light on stage right. I need a tree gobo up stage left. So there's also the downside of this. I'm not saying this is how it's going to be used on Broadway, or in a major rock and roll show. But I think there's a lot of theaters out there that would look upon this as they're not just cutting the programmer, they're cutting the lighting designer. Get them out of the way. Make everything go faster. How many times have we done a show in which tech has simply gotten in the way of a rehearsal? So I'm saying there's some evil that could come along with this too.
Well, I say that the director has a few other things to worry about. Actors, blocking, stage managers, costumes, scenery, that they don't have time to talk to the lighting console.
Oh yeah, they do.
I'm kind of with Ellen on this one. You know, I know I've changed my stripes a bit. I'm the first one to admit when I'm wrong.
I'm not saying San Francisco Ballet is going to act this way. I'm not saying
we get
the Alliance Theater in Atlanta is going to act this way. But I can see a director sitting there right now. I just need a big white, happy look on stage with a little pink. Boom. And
no,
there
that's a hack director.
Yeah, right.
But that's not a director you want to work with anyway.
Well, the union can also try to protect designers maybe and say, you can't do a union show without a union designer.
There's a lot of non-union theaters out there.
Yeah,
what are we going to call this thing? Is it going to be HAL? What's this design? What's this console going to be called?
Well, I have a whole design for it, and the first one to give me a piece of the pie, I'll tell them what it is. So ETC, Verilight, you listening?
Right. Now that you're retired and you've got all these fabulous ideas, why aren't you consulting to Grand MA?
They can ask me. I'll be happy to work out a deal. And the thing is, they better get me fast because dementia's moving in.
Pretty soon he'll be talking to the console and saying, "Oh, I want my living room pale pink with a yellow wall over there."
We're getting arguments at the console. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Well, who's the fellow who came up with the Source 4?
David Cunningham.
You were on the fringes of that. Do you remember all the companies that turned him down and went, "Oh, no, that'll never work"? I mean, you could be right there. You could be the Cunningham of the new console. I mean, he went to everybody trying to get that moving forward. And only Fred Foster saw the vision of it.
And how about Richard Bellevue, who has 25 patents, on all kinds of stuff, from dichroic filters to a lot of stuff in those lights.
Yeah. Between this console and Drone Focus Deluxe, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to handle it all.
Wow.
So, anyway.
I think we'll see Drone Focus Deluxe sooner than we'll see the AI console.
With Zach involved now, I have
Isn't
no
that
doubt
funny?
that's going to happen.
That is so funny.
I could see that at the Super Bowl. I could see that at the Olympics. I could see that on a, Taylor Swift concert.
Oh yeah, I know.
Big time use.
Yeah,
someone's going to do that.
And Steve, what you said last week was hysterical, and I agree because you can use it to go get your drink during a break. Right?
Yes.
Pick up
Is this another Doug Fleener DMX controlled gadget?
That's right. It could be DMX.
There you go, Doug. He
Bluetooth,
may do it.
Whatever.
Right. Okay. You are listening to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers and Sister. And today's Light Talk is sponsored by
Better Than Nothing Industries. Do you find yourself at load-in asking, "Where's my gaffer's tape?" Then you need Gaffa-No-Go. Gaffa-No-Go is the 8-foot training leash for your roll of tape. Just clip the No-Go device on your work belt. That's right, every time your tape starts to wander off, if you know what I mean, a quick pull and Gaffa-No-Go brings it right back. Perfect, right? What could be better than the Gaffa-No-Go? Hold your donut. Introducing the Better Than Nothing Industries Survival line, because if it isn't tied down, it's gone. The Tool No-Go, still yours. Flashlight No-Go, still there. Glove No-Go, finally a pair. Phone No-Go, not today. Cup No-Go, protect your coffee. And the ALD No-Go, always nearby when you need your paperwork. That's right, Dennis Size. And if you're ready for advanced level control, the Octopus, an 8-arm version of the original. Just hook it up to your crew and they'll follow you around like a pack of hungry hound dogs. The No-Go, it may not be perfect, but it's better than nothing.
Ba-dum-bum. And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those crazy ducks, monkeys, and iguanas tell us that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about how do you say goodbye to a long-term client?
Why are you saying goodbye to them?
We always say goodbye.
Is it like you've got a better gig, or you think that your career's moving faster than the directors?
Or they're not treating you properly, or they're not
Well,
paying their
that's a
bills?
possibility too. Maybe it's time where you're just not being treated.
No, I don't know if it's the not treating you fairly or rot or that, but we start careers and we are young and we work at a summer stock theater for 3 years, and then all of a sudden we realize it's time to move on. We can't just keep doing it. We work with that theater in the small town, and we need to, we're getting better. You're getting better. So how do you say goodbye to that person who took a risk on you when you were just getting going?
Are you talking about the director, or are you talking about like the general director of the company, or the
It
production
could be
manager?
in any way you want to interpret it. Any way. It could be a director. It could be an organization.
Maybe you've trained your replacement and you say at some point, hey, I'm moving on, but, David will take my place or whatever.
Now, that's what I try to do. I try to have one of my students who's assisted me get them the job. It's just interesting how this business works, and everybody's journey is different. It really is. But the usual journey, it usually has a lot to do with the director, that you're going to be following the director around. The director is going to take you to these new places. You may meet somebody like I met, Neil Jampolis and Gilbert Hemsley and Ken Billington at the League Show when I was a student, and they hired me to be their assistant. And, again, it's just one of those things that happens in this business. So once you meet those directors and you start working for directors and with directors, and they like the way you work, they're going to take you. Their trajectory is going to be your trajectory.
And that's a good example of saying goodbye. Maybe what happens is you're working at a XYZ theater and the director says, I've got an offer for you it's going to conflict with next year's gig.
Right.
You look at that. I think whatever you do, you always say goodbye in a nice way, and you leave on top. You don't want to be remembered as that grumpy lighting designer who stormed out.
Right.
I agree. I think it's really interesting because I've seen a lot of designers screw this up, and it's because they have too high of a impression of themselves, and they think that the director's beneath them, or it's some bullshit like that. It makes no sense because, we talked about this last week about the hierarchy of the theater and how important that. I think the question was, do you ever say no to a director? I think that was the question.
Right.
And the bottom line is no. Believe me, I've worked with directors who I think the world of, who I may not have agreed with their decision, but I went with it and I supported it because I understand how this business works. You don't try to undermine a director. That's the dumbest thing you could ever do.
Right. Well, that's for sure. And you never know when that director who's working in the regional theater might get his first Broadway show. And you don't want to have burned that bridge, because then they're going to come back and say, hey, you're not going to believe this, but I've just been asked to design the revival of XYZ on Broadway. You want to come?
Right. Exactly. And that works for scene designers, also with costume designers, even stage managers. I've seen stage managers get lighting designers' jobs. I've seen it.
Right.
They were working in some regional theater somewhere, and they said, our lighting designer just was backed out, and they say, well, how about Steve Woods? I just worked with him down in Dallas. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check him out.
We work with stage managers on everything we do, and
Right.
I mean, there's that can be a nightmare for a stage manager if you don't have a lighting designer who's listening and helping you through the process, because they're certainly helping us through the process.
You say goodbye as nicely as possible.
As nicely as possible.
Yep.
So Steve has our last question of the day.
All right. Chip in Kansas writes, now that LED is here to stay and getting better every day, is there a tungsten fixture that is a hidden gem that we're all going to miss and I should grab it right now off eBay? Well, I think if Dennis Size were here, he'd say the 6-inch Fresnel. I haven't thought about that in a while. I don't know that there is a hidden gem in tungsten fixtures, but certainly there are great tungsten fixtures out there. I just snarfed up a bunch of Mole Richardson space lights because I had to make a gigantic light box, and they're normally, I don't know, a couple $1,000s each, and I got them for $50 each. I don't have any illusion that they're going to be a vital part of the inventory of the theater moving forward, but boy, it was the right light at the right time for what I needed. I don't know, Dave, you have a tungsten light that you're going to kind of miss and long for occasionally?
That I have sexy dreams about? No, I don't
Yeah.
think so. I'm over tungsten. The interesting thing is they're not making lamps anymore. I was going to ask you, Steve, are these fixtures you just bought, do you have spare lamps for them, or?
Oh, yeah, the lamp is no problem until the United States finally gets on board with the rest of the world. But you do have, if this were like some kind of weird 1952 Lico with a odd lamp that hasn't been made in 40 years, no, I don't think I'd buy that.
Now I'm thinking about, there is a lamp, and it's a 5K Fresnel made by Ari that I used in Napoli. That's right. We were doing a new production of My Fair Lady, and the set design used a lot of natural woods in it. And the theater had all LED fixtures. And this was about 7 years ago, when the CRI still wasn't, really there yet. And the house electrician was telling me, oh no, these new clay packy lights are fantastic. And I said, okay, but this one set is really important. There were like 8 sets in the show. It's a crazy large show. And this was the set that you'd spend like 75% of the show in, which was Higgins' study. And it's all this wood, and it's just beautifully painted and, natural stuff. And I turn them on, and they just weren't going to cut it. So I had already ordered these 10 fixtures to put out front, just as front light. And we turned them on, and it came alive. So yeah, I mean, that's it. But I don't know. I think nowadays, though, they've really kind of solved a lot of that problem for tungsten. Also, you can't get an instant blackout, which sometimes you really want.
Yeah, if you look at things that are being done, particularly in photography, you just don't see a tungsten fixture anymore. I'm a little bit of a sucker for a Mole Richardson or an Ian Narrow 5K Fresnel, but I need them once every 10 years or something. It's not that it's something I'm going to hoard in my garage.
Speaking of lamps and Ari was just sold last month, I believe, to another owner. It was bought by a company called Rydell Communications and Rydell Group, which is like the third new owner for Ari in very short period of time.
Well, that's interesting.
Weren't they owned by Osram at one point?
Right.
And now they're not anymore. I know. And I don't know if the cameras and lamps and everything all go together, or, because at one point Osram owned Clay Packy, and I don't know what the deal was. Clay Packy, Osram, it was all mixed up in there at one point. Now Ari definitely belongs to this Rydell company.
Yeah, there was that period in which lamp companies were buying up lighting companies.
Right.
Martin, Verilight, Clay Packy, as you say.
Yep.
I mean, Roby is one of the few that remained intact through that whole kind of bloodbath years.
Right. Speaking of tungsten, I do love a nice reading lamp with a tungsten bulb. And I think that theater should stock those for their practicals. So when you have a desk lamp or something, you can still just have a good old tungsten light on your desk.
Yeah. Except when that light burns out and that damn cue does not work anymore.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I have a house full of LEDs, and I've only lived in this house for 3 years. So everything was brand new 3 years ago, and half of them are on the blink already anyway.
Oh, my God. All right. Well,
I know.
That happens also, I'm
Right.
sure. I'm sure. All right. That was fun. I had a great time. And next week, we'll have Dennis and hopefully Zach back on the show. And so we'll get their opinions about what's happening with the Tony Awards, which should be pretty interesting.
Do you think Dennis will have an opinion?
Dennis, no, he doesn't know what to talk about.
He's such a wallflower. He just hangs back, and it's hard to get him to talk.
By the way, last week, you missed this, Ellen. He now holds the record for the longest pontification on Light Talk history.
Who, Dennis?
It went on for like 9 or 10 minutes.
He's outbeat Stan?
I literally had to stop him.
Oh, my God.
I said, enough. Like, you're in the weeds. You're totally in the weeds.
I have to defend Dennis here, my fellow Lumen brother. It was very interesting what he was saying. And Dennis, if you're listening in, I appreciated the detail you went into, and I thought it was great. And I also, God bless you, I love it that you totally ignored David and just kept going.
He did ignore me, yes.
That's hilarious.
Wrap it up, Dennis.
Speaking of next week, I think not in addition to maybe Zach and maybe Dennis, we also have a guest. I think we have Chris Lowe's next week.
I think we do too.
Oh, that's
So
right.
there you go.
Oh, we have Chris next week. Great. And I wanted to say something. Dennis brought out the point that every nominee for Best Lighting Design of a Musical, except for one, has been on our show.
How there you go.
There you go.
Which one has not been?
Who is it? Is Kevin? Kevin has been on the show.
Oh.
Well, certainly Adam's been on. Dawn's been on.
What about Jen Shriver? Is she coming?
She's going to be on. Jen Shriver will be on in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, good. She great.
She thinks it's the first week of June. Something like that.
Good. So next week we do have a guest.
They're all going to be on the show, which is fantastic. I think that's kind of exciting, especially, most of them being very, very young. So it's pretty cool. Very, very exciting to watch these people's careers take off. Great. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again you've spent another Wednesday morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk Insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, you will have to deal with me, Snoot from the Snoot Group. And don't get it twisted. Just because I married one of these losers does not mean I will go easy on you. So don't with me.
Light Talk, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shores neighborhood of Long Beach, California, the tropical paradise of St. Barts, and the Lone Star State.
Be sure to join us next week when we dive into more lighting shenanigans and serve up a fresh, piping hot casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we will see you all next Wednesday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.
Bye.